Hi, Kerrie.
Hi, Sasha.
For anyone who's joining us, this is the Six Figure Practice podcast and YouTube. What we'll be talking about today is the roadmap to a private practice where you get to serve your clients and also thrive yourself. No shame about that one. And Kerrie, a good way to start would be you sharing who you are, who you help, and yeah, what do you focus on in your private practice?
Sure. So I'm Kerrie Mohr, and I'm the founder of A Good Place Therapy and Consulting. We're located in Lower Manhattan, and I started out my practice about 5.5 years ago, and we grew to a group practice 4 years ago. And we've been happily operating as a group and growing as a group to continue to try to meet the needs of the people who come to us for therapy. Um, and we started off doing primarily CBT, and I was, really trained as a CBT therapist and really enjoyed doing CBT and ERP early on. However, we kind of grew to really take on more clinicians with, diverse backgrounds and other specialties. And so now we really like to be able to accommodate people with whatever they come with a modality that they might be seeking out and be interested in, or whatever might be a good fit for what they present. So we have a range of CBT and ERP therapists, as well as therapists who really enjoy, working like more psychodynamic. We don't have any analysts on the team, even though that really is kind of a big thing still in New York. But we do have people who are really like the Ackerman relational model, which I also myself trained in last year, and people who are more eclectic in their approach and who to take on a variety of different types of trainings to complement their style.
That's wonderful. So a lot of needs can be met in your group practice by sounds like there's a big diversity.
Yeah, I think that when I started off the group practice, I really was thinking more about CBT and thought that would be probably easier from a marketing perspective, and because referrals that were coming in are specifically for from other CBT clinicians or for clinicians who are looking specifically for CBT, um, and it wasn't so I started out that way and then trained therapists and really made sure I felt comfortable in who was going to be taking on those cases. But it was easy, over time to grow and to take clinicians who had other specialties, and we found, just creative ways to really, highlight that.
If you rewind back to right before you started your solo private practice, uh,
Hmm.
what were some of the pros and cons you were thinking about?
Well, I think so. I left a career in nonprofit
Uh
management,
huh.
and as on my it's kind of just progressively moving forward and taking on kind of leadership positions without really thinking too much about the direction I was going in, because isn't it always better just to aim higher and higher,
It's the
and
next
then
step, right? It's the
right, the next step. And but I really quickly found out that that wasn't the case, and I was not happier, the higher I went. And in fact, I was like really not feeling I was, working and living in alignment with my values or my passions or what I really wanted to be doing. And what I found was that I was more interested in doing one-on-one clinical work when, my job, most of my, career has been supervising clinicians and overseeing clinical teams as a part of um, program level leadership. And, I found just doing the one-on-one work myself was much more fulfilling, at the end of the day. So it was, almost like a reverse journey from like what a lot of people have, where they might start out working one on one and then start climbing into leadership. I kind of went the other way around, and haven't really looked back, because I just am so much, happier and, fulfilled in doing the clinical work. I think I didn't give myself permission earlier in my career to do it, and maybe because it was hard to afford a lifestyle in the cities that I've lived in between New York and San Francisco to really do the one-on-one work. But private practice is a way where you can really, if you dedicate the time to kind of build your practice and grow and make the right moves, then you can really have you can afford your lifestyle. You can really expect to do well. So I'm happy that I've been able to make that work for myself, professionally and personally.
Yeah, so it's the focus was really what makes me feel most alive, and just follow that passion, right? Versus
Mm-hmm.
the escalator of what's the next best position for me. Uh,
Right,
mhm.
right, and it really wasn't working out that way at all for me, and I think it partly because it was no longer in alignment with my values and what I wanted. So, I just kind of intuitively followed that to allow myself to consider going into private practice and leaving that career. And I think I struggled with some feelings of, I think, guilt, and I think, did it make the wrong decision, and some doubt really early on. But in the end, I was focused enough, and I was excited enough about that new path that I stayed on it, and I'm really glad I stuck with it.
That's wonderful. How were your first few months in private practice after making that decision?
Well, my first few months, I thought it was scary. I'm not going to lie. I think it's
Totally is.
easier for other people than it than it was for me. Um, but it felt scary because I wasn't sure if that was going to be the path, and I was going to be able to be successful and to be able to do that full time without having to go back and take another job or supplement my income in some way. But and it was also just a lot of work. I mean, I just remember working really long days, and in the beginning, it wasn't the clinical hours, because the work was to build the practice to be able to attract the clients and to get the referrals. So I could feel like I was a real therapist and not just selling myself as a therapist. So that was a struggle. I remember having to learn everything at once, and how difficult that was. Like, to learning all the systems that had to be put into place to feel like I had to be a graphic designer, and a really good blog writer, and expert at the social media, and attending every networking happy hour, and asking for introductions, and figuring out what groups I needed to belong to. And it was just a lot. It was like immersing myself, like just really kind of deep diving into the private practice world, and I needed to build my community, and I needed to learn all the nuts and bolts of running a business, and develop the skills to be able to sustain and grow the business. So I think I didn't realize before I actually got in it how much work that was going to be, and how hard that was. So I think in the beginning it was just a lot of work, and just embracing all the uncertainty is a part of that.
I think this is so important for other people to hear. If someone is listening that uh, and maybe they're just started or thinking about starting a private practice, and yes, the ratio of business work to clinical work would definitely be like maybe 90% business and 10% of clinical work, right? And I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you had experienced that, at least for me and the counselors and coaches that I coach in building their practice, it gradually shifts. Right? You start doing
Mm-hmm.
less business work, less marketing work, and you do more clinical work, right? So you reap off the benefits that those seeds that you plant at the beginning, right? But there's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
no way around
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, and I think to set the expectations accordingly, that that you're just laying the foundation, and you're spending time just doing what you need to do, so that you can have the space to take on the clients when the clients start coming. So, I was part of, what helped me feel confident was that I did have some income doing some moonlighting work that I did on the side of my nonprofit management work with a telehealth company called able2.com. And so I did have, a caseload of clients and some income coming in where I could do that while also growing my practice. And I think that was also really helpful. I think if I just, quit the job and just said, I'm going to go start my private practice, that would require a lot more just budgeting um, and patience and yeah, than what I was able to do when I had like just a little income on the side as I built the practice.
It reminds me this book, Big Magic. Well, it's written for writers, but the idea that you don't have to, when you say follow my passion, right? You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to quit everything. It's okay to have your feet on the ground while head in the clouds, right? It's okay
Right.
to have your cash project while you build your passion project until the revenue there grows and you can quit the cash project, right? Because you already built
Mm-hmm.
that one. Can you share about
Absolutely.
how did your week look like while you needed to work, right, at your
Mm-hmm.
existing job and you were doing all those things to build your private practice? How did you manage to do all of it?
Well, I worked with a coach in the beginning with Amy Blaustein, who was extremely helpful because I met with her for once a week, and then she was my accountability buddy. So I highly recommend having some accountability kind of built into your your process as you begin. And so with that, we would do things like right this day, like I had this reminder in my calendar, for example. It was like this day would be great if these three things were accomplished, and then I would put that in my calendar, schedule it for every day, so then I would know what those things were, and then have kind of a demonstrated thing to feel good about. Like I ticked those things off, off the list, and I feel like I got things done, even though there's this feels so overwhelming and it's so big what I have to do. So I think just making sure to have clarity, like what is it that you want to accomplish each day, what is it that you want to accomplish each week, having clear timeline and goals.
Yeah, so you didn't reinvent the wheel, right? You didn't do
Hmm.
just trial and error or try and see. And you actually used what is really working in therapy and coaching, which is change happens in a relationship, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
When I have,
Yeah.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
Well, when I have someone else to be accountable to, right? When I have someone to
Hmm.
brainstorm with, when I have some guidance from other people, right? When I can have structured conversations about what I'm doing, right? I can even change my own behaviors, right? In doing that, when it does require some effort. So well, I'm talking
Hmm.
to a CBT person, right? You kind of need to restructure some of those beliefs about what you can and can't do, right? What you should and shouldn't be doing, etc.
Right.
What were you about to
Yeah.
say?
I don't. I just lost my train of thought. Well, actually, it was that you said you're not just like trial and error the whole time, and you have a plan, which I really did. And partly it was some trial and error because I consider myself pretty intuitive. So I liked the process of kind of following just the path to see what works, like what is sticking, and then can I be safe and go with that. So one of the things was that because I wasn't, quite ready to give up the parts of my work that I loved in nonprofit leadership, I built part of the practice to be this consulting arm and to do organizational consulting. And in the beginning, there were several projects, and I had these irons in the fire, and I was putting together proposals and had lots of conversations with different people, and then very few of them actually followed through where it just stuck or became something. And then the ones that did, it was so short term and like kind of fewer and far between that it just didn't feel sustainable for the business. It would feel like I would be chasing the consulting business. And then when the clients started coming, the therapy clients, it felt like this is easy, this is good, and oh, and I really love this. This is why I also started the practice and what I'm really happy to do right now. And so I really had to. It's almost like give up this part of myself in a way that I thought was going to really become such a big part of the practice, or I didn't know. I was kind of hoping it would be to really follow my heart and just do the therapy. Now, that over time, I think I was able to then embrace those other things that I loved about nonprofit work when I started to grow the practice into a group practice. So now running the group practice and seeing my clients is kind of like the best of both of those worlds.
Mm.
It wasn't going to be like the consulting in the individual clients I was seeing, but it was going to be running the group practice and being able to really to have a community of therapists where we offer mutual support to each other, and I get to play a role in supervising clinicians and seeing them grow and helping them pursue their interests in what they love in the practice and in the community outside of their work with their clients, and also kind of grow their clinical skills and their specialties. And I really get a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction out of that too.
Yeah, I love that. So you're saying my private practice doesn't need to be fixed, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
experiment, I can work with different projects, I can let go of what is not needed and grow into something different as well. I think that's where a lot of
Right.
counselors get stuck. I see it like really, really vividly when they build their websites, right? And choose their services. And there's like this fear of almost a grief, right? Okay, I need to choose something, a population to work with, or two or three, right? But I cannot do it all. And you're saying, well, it's okay to pivot, right? It's okay
Mm-hmm.
to add and it's okay to remove. Right? I think a few months ago, I removed individual therapy from my website, and that's been a big relief. I still see the individual therapy clients that I have right now, and that's great. But I want to focus more on couples therapy right now at this part of my counseling private practice. And
Mm-hmm.
it's great. And it's as easy as, hiding that page from my website. Done.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always
Yes,
bring
there you
it
go.
back.
Done. Yes, good. I love that approach and that idea too, and also that I'm talking with you and learning about your passions and interests because we're always looking for therapists in other cities. We have a lot of particular needs for Los Angeles and San Francisco, which are going to be opening an office in soon. In Austin, Texas, really randomly is like a big city that a lot of people are moving to, or people's brothers, family members, like friends, and they're looking for therapists. But it's good to know of you and your practice in Colorado, and also like that you do couples and family work, which the family part is also so rare and so needed.
Yeah, I just love that. What I told you before we started recording that family therapy session I had.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of action, right? A lot to track, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love that part. Can you say more about the decision to switch from solo practice to group practice? When did you make that decision? Why? And um a lot of people they kind of grow to this ceiling of, okay, I can grow that so far with one-on-one and trading my services for money and my time, and I either keep on going that way or maybe I change or add something to keep on growing. So how was that decision
Mm-hmm.
making process for you?
Well, I think for me, I think what encouraged me to do it was feeling a little lonely in private practice and being a pretty social and outgoing person, and really loving the team elements of the nonprofit work in my past. And so and loved like being a part of a team and working with a team and motivating a team. And so I think it felt like a natural fit to move into that direction. I hadn't considered it until until there's like, it's going to sound really hippy dippy, but I had a dream. This is not me at all, by the way, but this really happened. So I had this dream that that I had a group practice, and I woke up and I thought that felt really good to envision that for my practice. And then I opened up my inbox, and it was a therapist who was looking for a job
No way.
in a private
Same day.
practice. Yeah,
Oh, that's
I'm not
great.
kidding. And I was like hesitating to say that because it sounds so corny and it sounds so like woo woo, but it's true. It really happened. So then I thought it was kismet. And then I had several conversations with this young woman, and she's wonderful, but I never ended up hiring her. And then the following week, Heather on my team, who was a coworker of mine from a former organization, had had reached out to me and said, "Would you consider hiring me?" And so then I said, "Of course, it's such an easy way to start. I would love to work with you and bring you on board." But a couple months prior, I had just been doing some coaching with Heather because she was considering starting her own private practice, but she decided against that and just decided, I think I'd rather just see clients in private practice and not worry about starting my own at this point in my career and in my life. And she has two young kids at home too, in a full-time job. So then that was it. It just seemed really easy. Like I almost didn't plan it or think about it. Just move forward with putting the pieces in place to hire Heather and to get started with getting her referrals. And she was working and still is working with us with individuals and with couples. So it started off that way, and then I wanted to do family and children work as well in the practice. So I approached another former colleague of mine from another organization, Michael Mantel, and asked him, "Well, would you ever consider working in private practice?" And he also was interested, and so he was the next hire. And it felt really safe and really good to be building the team with people who I already really knew their clinical skills, and I knew who they were as people and how we work together, and an easier way to get started. So that's kind of, yeah, just the two of them were the very first.
So it was very organic for you. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's being missed, when counselors think about, well, maybe I can have a group practice, right? And they look at other people's group practices, and it looks also uh, clean, organized, and structured, right? But you think, well, it happened one step at a time. It started with a dream. I love that story, by
Mm-hmm.
the way. Right? Yeah.
It literally started with a dream.
Uh, yeah.
But then I think it was a natural fit, and then when I started doing it, I was like, yeah, this is what I should be doing because this feels really good to me, and it feels like some things came. I don't think it just came easier, but because I learned a lot from my career in managing teams and managing people and growing clinical programs, and so some of those things, um, I learned the hard way in that too. But I really took those lessons, and I learned what I needed to learn from some of them, and then you know built the confidence to be able to have my own group, my own business.
How much complexity did it add to your life? The bureaucracy, the legal side of hiring someone, uh, kind of managing, I assume, more logistics, and the managerial part of that.
Right. I think it did require me to reduce my own caseload, and that has actually been the case throughout the last 4 years. It's just knowing when I do need to do that, knowing when I can, scale up and be okay, and when I need to really be okay with not, closing off my schedule, not taking on new clients, so that I can really focus on the business aspect of things. And it's also about knowing and being okay with what you're good at and what you enjoy doing, and just to be able to outsource the things that you don't love or that other people are much better at. And I think just being honest with yourself about what those things are. For me, that's my billing and my reception. I have a contract company that I work with, and they're amazing. And they really, their company ethos is like the same as our ethos, and so they really represent us well at the front door and on the billing side when clients have billing questions or things come up, and they're really amazing and very confident in their work, and they fit well with us and with our culture, and so that works great. So yeah, I think it's about being honest with yourself, outsourcing, when you need to, being able to making sure that you have the capacity to build the business and to focus on the business when you need to focus on it. And other than that, sorry, hold on a second. I have to put this in.
So there was a little barking, which is the nature of technology and human connection via electronic devices.
Okay, yeah, I just moved into the bedroom.
Yeah,
My dog's barking at the door.
I I,
So,
I actually like that part. Especially in my coaching and counseling sessions. It's nice. It's kind of like doing a house visit, I guess, like from the
totally.
convenience of my home, right?
It's like now more than ever, right? This past year, doing telehealth and
Mm-hmm.
all the Zoom visits from
Yeah,
our homes.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. So, what would be your tip for someone who feel their private practice? They're thinking about going into group practice. What could make this process as smooth and simple and easy for them as possible? Maybe from your experience, which mistakes not to make, right, and what to
Hmm.
focus on.
Yeah, I think starting with making sure to have your support, hiring a coach is a good start. Or, I think there's like, organizations like yours, that companies like yours that do the consulting. That's a really good first step. So you have the accountability buddy, and you just have, the resources in that. And I think, don't be shy to scale slowly, just to take your time to build the business and to be patient with it. So if that means that you plan to not leave your job until like 6 months or a year, and you're going to start to put those things in place, I think that's fine. Or to be part time somewhere while you scale up. I think that's also another really good approach. So you could just take the pressure off yourself. And I also think, in what I've been recommending people just to consider, is to get on just one insurance panel. If they're planning to be cash or private pay or just out of network, and they're scaling really slowly, that if they go on just one insurance panel and they maintain a good schedule and kind of good boundaries to leave room open to also take private pay, that they can fill their caseload, they can feel fulfilled with the work that they're doing with clients, and then they can kind of build up their client list, and get referrals through other clients, and start to take the time to get known in the community, to build up that referral base. And so I myself did that. I got on an insurance panel after about 7 months, or no, actually it was July. I think it was January. So after starting in July, and I had about 7 private pay clients. Which, what if that was, I don't know, 15 by the end of the year? It still was not going to be enough. So when I got on one insurance panel, I just felt so excited to be doing the private practice work and seeing clients. And I just had to be disciplined to make sure that there was like enough room open, and I wasn't just filling all the slots with the insurance panel, which in New York, doesn't pay, which is really ironic because New York is probably the most expensive place to live in the whole country, and it just doesn't. So that I've been advising, just do that, and if you could just kind of have a few slots, or just not let it dominate your schedule, then it's a really good way to grow. I mean, you also have to be willing, to just know that you're going to be making less money than if you had all availability for the private pay clients, depending, of course, on what your fee is that you set. But my second year, I want to say my first full year in private practice, I made about 10% less than I was making in my vice president role at the organization that I left. And I had to look at that and say, wow, but this next year is when it's really going to scale. And it did. So, you just have to be patient. You have to be willing to make some sacrifices. And that part of that might be making, a little less money than you were making at the job that you left, when you get started.
And counselors are not strangers to that, right? The sunk cost of studying in a master's program for 3 years and not being able to create a full-time income during that time is, yeah, why not invest that time, continue, and build your practice and take that, well, in a way, pay cut at the forefront and reap the benefits later. Yeah. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
Looking back, would you do anything differently? Either in your solo practice or in your group practice or in the transition between those two stages?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, gosh, I'm really glad to say that. I think when I said like keep a good boundary if you do get on an insurance panel, I think I struggled with that because I just wanted to see everybody who came in the door and
That's a
just
big
fill up
one.
all the slots and then give them, the time slots that they want to have that they want to have. So I think I was like, this is such a rookie mistake, but I'm I'm sure I was like working till like 9 p.m. most nights of the week. Sometimes it would be like, and I still do this like really long days, like one day a week, but I think there were several days where I was working like 8 to 8 or 8 to 9 even, where I was like scheduling clients when they wanted to be scheduled and not like, my own, sacrificing my own schedule and my own life in many ways. And just because, it's like the scarcity mindset, the clients are coming in, I have to take them because like, how lucky am I to be working for myself? And how privileged it is to be able to see these people and be in their lives in this way. And but you can't do that if you want to build your practice so that you can live sustainably and and make good money that you can afford to live on and have the lifestyle that you want. So you have to be able to make some room for the private pay, and you have to be able to set your fees in a way that you're valuing your worth in what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So you're saying it's really a matter of clear boundaries with myself, right? And then
Hmm.
with insurance panels or clients in terms of my fees, in terms of my
Hmm.
time, in terms of how and when do I work as well, and what's the limit on that. I find it so interesting at the beginning, counselors and coaches, all they can think about is more clients, and then
Hmm.
clients start coming in, and then it's the other side of the same coin. It's like, oh shit, pardon my language, I have way too many clients right now. What, in a way, it's a good
Hmm.
problem to have, right? But you pay with burnout,
Hmm.
compassion fatigue, which is definitely a thing, right? When you see 12 clients a day, like something starts happening to your compassion with the that eighth client, for example, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I had a really hard time with that in the beginning when I started taking the insurance clients, but I still do sometimes have a hard time with that. And it's probably why I still have, like this week, saw about 20, probably up to 22 clients a week, which is a lot when you're running a, practice of the size that I'm running. And then other things will be in the back burner that really should not be, that it should be having my priority and my attention. So, but I do have to say that I love the clinical work. I love working with my clients. And so I always want to make room for, to have, a pretty good size caseload, or at least, into the near future. And I don't want to think about not seeing clients, but at the same time, I have to like always be disciplined to remember the boundary and to not take on new people and to really explore who, for me it's looking at who else on the team could be a good fit for the client who might be asking to see me. So I have to be disciplined and be good with that, especially when I'm doing things like trying to build the practice on on the West Coast.
So, how, if you break down today the time that you work with clients, the time that you talk to your team, how would you break it down to for any person who's thinking about starting a group practice, right? How would a week in a life look like?
It's well, it's several long days a week. I kind of tapered down my week, as I was just telling you before we
Yeah.
started recording the call. So that means that my like Mondays through Wednesdays are longer days, and then I see clients on Thursday mornings, and I reserve the afternoon for scheduling some administrative work, following up with the employment attorneys, or making all the phone calls that I need to make. Just spending time in policy and procedure, and I want to say like strategic planning, but I don't carve out time for that. It kind of gets sprinkled in like wherever it fits, and wherever it kind of comes up in conversation. But that's kind of, and then by Fridays I do the same thing as Thursday, where it's like tapered down, even fewer clients, and then leaving the day to try to do like one-to-ones, and meeting up with other therapists for networking, or other kinds of providers, and scheduling other meetings. So the week is about, and I do a lot of clinical supervision with some members of my team, and with the leadership on the team, administrative and clinical supervision, and see my clients. So it's like 20 to 22 clinical hours, and it's about, I would say, 5 to 6 supervision hours a week, and then the rest is going to be running the business.
Wonderful. So sounds like you have a very clear system.
Yeah, I try. I mean, I think it's
Work in
it's
progress always, right?
is a constant in like setting the intention,
Mm-hmm.
and always like trying to do the best I can to kind of forecast the week, to know what I can expect for that week, to understand. I've been using this new term that we used from uh, this consultant we've been working with, who's an anti-racist consultant and educator, Dr. Melba Sullivan, introducing the term window of tolerance.
Yes.
And so I find with myself, and being a person who like thrives in chaos, I mean, literally I have this frenetic energy, and I'm just like,
Uh-huh.
the more the better, just pile it on.
Yeah. Bring
So I
on
find
that crisis mode, right?
so yeah, so I tend to like operate that way a little bit. So I've been asking myself, like, is this within my window of tolerance? Do I have more? Can I, is there more room? Is there more capacity? And I'll tell myself, I think so, or no, you can be done for the day, or whatever it is. But I try to be real with myself about what that is.
Yeah. So it's really about honesty with yourself. What do
Hmm.
you actually enjoy it, right? Or are you pushing yourself too much? Or do I need to push myself more? Right? It
Hmm.
does require work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think you and I probably think a lot alike about our businesses, because I see that you do multiple things too, and it's like when I think things get too static, then I'm always like thinking about the next thing I want to do. And luckily on our team we have a lot of creative minds, and people who just love to think about therapy in unique ways, and so we're really having fun with building out our children and family arm, because I didn't kind of finish that when I started talking about wanting to do family work, but we kind of like didn't grow that, because we just grew a lot more with the individual kind of working professionals that came in the door, and there's like such a big demand for therapy for for that primary demographic, that we kind of just like didn't continue building and growing children and families. But I want to do that. But is an example of like people on the team wanting to do that, then us saying go for it, go out there, and we bring it in, and we try to provide for those needs. And when those families and those people kind of come in our door, we like to put ourselves out there, as far as like um, paying attention to like what it is that people are asking for us in the community, or with some of our partners. Like we work with Modern Health, and they organize talks for some of the companies that they work with, and we have people on the team who love to go out there and give the wellness or mental health talks. Or we have therapists in the team who like to do webinars and do podcast interviews like this. And so it's just fun. It's fun to be a part of a group of people who can think creatively about therapy, and about kind of giving back, and making what what it is and what we have to offer accessible to more people than the ones who might be just coming in our doors to pay for the therapy.
Sounds like a big part of your success is surrounding yourself with the right people, with proactive people, right, that
Mm-hmm.
think outside of the box and, well, make effort to
Mm-hmm.
uh, grow this thing and provide more value to more people.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, One maybe last question. The most common question I hear from counselors and coaches: how do I find more clients? And from having 5 years of experience, I'm sure you clarified for yourself what works, and in terms of people finding you and actually hiring you as well. It's not just about the being found part, and what is more a waste of time, right? Like an illusion that I'm doing something. uh,
Okay.
what's working most for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I do, again, it's like as far as the thing that's on the back burner that I should have more of a priority is like really analyzing uh, the referrals, because we keep track of all of it in a big spreadsheet, and I can see that information and get that data, but then I like rarely go look at it and I don't know why. um, but we do get a lot of referrals from, so I should have been prepared to look at that so I could just tell you the percentages.
Yeah,
um, but
from the top of your
I
head.
think I should do that if it's useful to you, if you want to send it out to your listeners just to get an idea.
Oh,
But
that would be
it
great.
is, yeah. So it's I think for us, like a lot of Psychology Today, as far as people finding us on the internet, Psychology Today, because I think they have really good SEO. So I definitely say get a Psychology Today page, even though, well, I don't want to say anything bad, but you could do that because it has good SEO.
Yeah, you just can't.
And
Well, I'll say it. You just can't build your private practice just on directory listings.
you can't, yeah. So to Psychology Today is a good one. We also ZenCare is this female owned and led company that I really love, and they're not in every market yet, but we're with ZenCare. They will profile only fully licensed clinicians in the markets that they're in, but they're really wonderful. It's a beautiful interface, and I often refer people to ZenCare if they are in the market of where people are looking for a therapist, because it's a little more vetted, and it's more what do you say? It's like more. It's not as static as Psychology Today, that as far as like people's open times and availability, and your ability to actually get an appointment with that therapist that you reach out to is, I think, I don't know what the numbers are, but more likely. So that's one that where we get some referrals, and then a lot of it is word of mouth, referrals from friends and family of existing clients. So that I think the more that you're in practice, and this is another way for people just to be mindful of how important patience is, how important it is to have patience, is that over time the people will get to know you and they will send referrals, and it will take for you to be seeing clients and for those clients to say, I have a great therapist for you. All of us in the team, for example, we have like certain kind of groups of people that we work with who are coworkers or friends, and they might have the same therapist, or their friend is referring to another therapist in the practice, and that starts to kind of scale and be nice to to open up that way and see how they come in. Um, another one is we do Google ads. Not we don't have a big spend for Google ads, but I do there's a therapist in Southern California who helps me. He just loves to do it. So he kind of runs the ads and kind of tells us how we're doing. And we create specific landing pages on the website.
Oh, you do?
It's not just, yeah, it's not just the Google ad with the website, because it's more of like the landing page is geared towards a call to action around a specific need. So that is one thing I do recommend. If you are going to do Google ads, don't waste your money. Do landing ads for very specific things that they might search, with the call to action, like help them see what is it that they could get from coming to you, and then help them kind of click that button, kind of follow through. So, and then there's things that I've tried that haven't worked. So I don't know if I want to
Oh,
get
that I
into that.
think,
Maybe you can
yeah.
email me and I'll tell you.
Well,
Should
from
I
the top of your head, what do you think was a big waste of time for you when you were building your practice?
ZocDoc?
What is that?
I'll just say, ZocDoc.
Uh-uh.
It's great for medical providers. So it's really big in New York, and I booked my doctors that way. But I think it's terrible for mental health. So I don't recommend it for clinicians for mental health specifically. Well, actually, if you take insurance, it might be very useful. But for us being out of network, it's not. So it was kind of a waste.
Got it. What would be your, maybe to summarize, an important tip from you to future counselors or coaches in private practice or group practice owners?
Hmm. Oh, it's something really simple but important, and that's that if you build it, they will come. I had somebody say that to me very early on, and it stuck with me. And I think I repeated it to myself every day. And then I look back and I say, she was right. And she was an architect who I rented an office from, my first office, a couple days a week in the Woolworth building at downtown Manhattan. And she said, don't worry, you're going to build it and they're going to come. I promise you. And she was an architect, and she rented her office suite to therapists because she was in therapy and she loved therapy and she loved like sharing her space with therapists. And so it was probably like, good energy that she brought to that. But I do really believe that if you're doing what you love, and you're passionate about what you have to offer, just be patient with the process to grow, and they will start coming.
Yeah, I love that. So to connect the two things you said, the patience and the build it and you'll come, continue
Hmm.
building it and they will continue coming, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't
Hmm.
sound like you finished building it 5 years later,
No,
right?
no, no, you don't just finish. And yeah, I mean, some people can do that. You just say, I'm happy, I'm just going to fill my caseload, and I'm just going to be good. And this is like a well-oiled machine, and just run. But if you're like me and you thrive in the chaos, you're always going to be doing that, like thinking about the next thing. So that's what I like to do and
That's
how I like to work.
That's great. Kerrie, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I learned a lot. I hope the listeners learned something as well, and just to see the trajectory of where can it start, what can it lead to. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, how do they find you? Your services, your practice.
They can find us at agoodplacetherapy.com. And we're in, I was going to tell you our Instagram, but I actually don't have my phone on me. I can't even tell you the handle. Isn't that terrible? One of the
That's
things that
awesome.
I don't do myself is, we have our marketing director who does like most of the social media, and she's really, really great. But it's like a time suck for me, so I don't like to spend a lot of time on it.
That's a good
But
tip by itself.
I think if you look up at a good place therapy, I'm sure our practice would pop up. So try that, but I can't guarantee that that's the actual handle. That's terrible. And then we're on Twitter, same thing. Um, and and then my email address is Kerrie, Kerrie, at agoodplacetherapy.com. So if you have any questions about what we're talking about here today, anything that you're kind of curious about, just feel free to email me.
That's very generous. Kerrie, thank you so much. Take care.
Oh, thank you, Sasha. It's good to meet you.